is Wallace Gator Bradley. Before I start the show, I want to share something with you, with my viewing audience.
So I'm Juliana Stratton. I'm the running mate to J.B. Pritzker. I'm the candidate for Lieutenant Governor. And we're here today just really excited about being at the Bud Biliken Parade right here in Bronzeville, which is where I live. We're just thrilled because we know that the Bud Biliken Parade has a tradition of lifting up young people, celebrating the time of the year when we get back to school. We just encourage all young people to be prepared, ready to work hard, because you all are going to take us to the next level. So we need all young people to be back in school, ready to go.
And we're going to go to Springfield and fight for you. Make sure we've got the best education we can provide. State of Illinois ought to be number 1, not number 50 in the United States. So we're on your side.
What I want everyone to know that next week will be the next Bud Biliken Day Parade. The parade is going to be very interesting, not just for the residents within the state, but it's a Bud Biliken Day Parade before the next election, where you're going to have a chance to decide who's going to become the next governor, the next attorney general. We got a chance to elect a bunch of Democratic congressmen. Thank God we got Democratic senators. So as we enjoy next week, the millions of people that's going to watch the Bud Biliken Day Parade, I want to say make sure that you don't choke. Please get out and vote. And tell people to get registered to vote, because these midterm elections are very important. And with that, let me say good evening to you again. And this show is being brought to you by a wonderful person that happens to be the chairman of United in Peace, Inc. She's also the producer of this show and director of this show. None other than, I'm kind of biased, my wife, Terry Marsh, someone that I love. Me, I'm no one. I'm just Wallace Gator Bradley, the host of this show. And I want to say, to God be the glory. Everyone knows about the protest that was on Lakeshore Drive. I want to say, hooray, hooray, for the fact that the people, I don't like calling them protesters, the people made their point known. It was non-violence. It was a non-violent march. There was no violence. There were no disturbance. Nobody got arrested. I want to say hooray, hooray to the mayor that made the wise decision to stop the traffic on Lakeshore Drive, on the south end at Fullerton, and on the north end at Irving Park. And again, I want to say hooray, hooray to the fact that the residents and then the individuals that came to watch the baseball game, when I read their response, they understood why the people were there marching. It was a win-win situation all the way around. Everybody's concerns got addressed. Caller, I see you. Could you say your name and voice your opinion?
My name is Ray and Gator. Hooray, hooray, hooray.
Hey, Ray.
Let me just say this. Well, you was kind of stepping there, weren't you?
Yeah, I do that a little bit, Ray.
You were looking good. I said, ooh, look at my man go. but you know, what gets to me? Now the Bud Biliken Parade, people go to see the parade and not them young girls with very little clothing on. Now when they go watch the parade. But what I want to say about this is Jackson Park used to have the best, or one of the best, softball tournaments in Chicago.
Yes, sir.
Basketball tournaments in Chicago. And now the library is going to be built there, which wasn't bad. But now they're going to build that big building for the former president. It's going to take up at least half to three-quarters worth of the park.
Right. But you know, Ray, the wonderful thing, I'm hearing what you're saying.
Okay.
And the wonderful thing about that, maybe now people are paying more attention to the great softball games that be at Washington Park. You know what I'm saying? I believe that everybody is focused on what they feel that they may be losing and not paying attention on how if we work this thing together, we all can gain something. You know?
Okay, Gator, but listen, they could have had it at Washington Park and Jackson Park.
Hey.
There's no place for kids to go now, and now they're going to have really not a place to go to enjoy themselves.
Right. Hey, Ray, I got another caller coming, but I agree with you. Because...
Thank you, Gator. You're the man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
You're a stepping man.
Yeah, I'm a stepping man, Ray. You know, I'm glad that Ray brought that up. And I'm saying that to say this. When I see Jabari Parker, former Simeon student, our son went to Simeon, and I see that the Bulls made the right choice by bringing Jabari to Chicago, and in a funny kind of way, even though he was in Milwaukee, he stayed east on 94. He stayed in Chicago when he could. I'm glad he's back. But the wonderful thing is, he came back, and in the spirit of what his father was doing. I remember watching Jabari and watching my son and a lot of other kids going to Washington Park to play basketball, and Jabari had a 2-day camp. And he reached out and got other guys who are basketball players who his father had at that camp. And what was so wonderful about the camp that his father had, all us brothers, fathers, would go to this camp from every spectrum of life. Be you a former gang member, an ex-felon, a judge, a FBI guy, a police superintendent, whatever it is, all our children was there in a safe environment to play. So I want to say hooray, hooray for Jabari being in Chicago and carrying on the legacy of his dad. Caller, I'll see you. Could you state your name and voice your opinion, please?
Yeah, this is James. Okay.
Hey, James.
Okay, like when you said about people become role models. Now, I look at now Eddie Johnson and Rod Manuel. they need to step down because they ain't gonna stop the violence. And it was good they did the protest, but I think it ain't gonna stop because if you get involved, it ain't gonna stop.
You know, my brother, you 100% correct. You know, on that note, after the young lady got murdered on 79th Street, when her and a guy was coming from the gas station, and I started getting reports that when the community or the family wanted to have a prayer vigil, people got to fighting at the prayer vigil. And they tell me there's a video out there. And one thing about violence that I'm seeing, violence is spontaneous. You know, and my wife had put up a prayer, and it was asking for God to bring down his wrath, pretty much. I can't remember what it was. But I shared the prayer, and I asked a lot of pastors whose pages I did have, I tagged them, and say, if all of them or just 10 of them made this prayer their sermon, that would be powerful. And then I started getting calls from pastors, or I started reading comments from people that were saying, hey, that's a prayer that we may not want, because God may come down and really bring down his wrath to stop those who's engaged in senseless shootings and killings and protecting people that's involved in senseless shootings and killings. And then there's going to be a whole lot of more crying because it's going to be our relatives' children. I'm saying that I agree with you. If Ram and the superintendent resign today, the next mayor and the next superintendent is not going to be able to stop all these shootings or these homicides. And one thing I want to say on this note, and I'm going to move to the next thing. It's at the mercy of God that there hasn't been more deaths, because there's surely been a whole lot of shootings. And the reason the rate was so high last year is because a lot of the people who were shot, a lot of them didn't survive. So we got to thank God that a lot of individuals who were shot didn't die, and then pray that he can put it in the individual's mind before they grab them pistols. Scratch your head and think, do you really want to do this? My last show, I put out there where I went to a town hall meeting and the people was asking about putting out a pledge or rules of engagement. And the rules of engagement is not condoning the violence. Nobody wants anybody to get shot or harmed. But it was saying if you got a conflict with someone and you see that person and he with his family, his children, or innocent bystanders, give that person a pass till you guys or ladies are with one another, where there's no chance that an innocent person can get shot and get harmed. And one of the things was, just because you got a conflict with an individual, you know where he live, don't go down his block and shoot up the block. Don't even shoot up his house. Wait till you see that person and address your concerns, and 9 times out of 10, that may give you enough time to say, is it really worth taking an individual's life or possibly losing your own? So, moving forward, We talking about the police decree. And one of the sticking points is, the question is, should the cops report whenever they point their guns at someone? I think they should. I think anything that the police officers, from what I'm reading, the fraternal order of police officers or their president is saying that's a waste of paperwork. We have to fill out that paperwork, and every time he pull up a gun, and then I say, okay, what is he saying? Is he saying if he pull out the gun, he might as well shoot somebody because he got to fill out paperwork? I think we all need to get behind that decree. I believe the public, when I say we, I'm talking about us, the public, okay? The people, okay? You got a chance to give what you feel need to be a part of that decree, and I think we as a public need to participate and make our feelings known before they come with the final proposal to present to the federal judge to do the monitoring. You know, a lot of people scream about what should be done and how it's being done. Caller, I see you. Could you state your name and please voice your opinion?
David Bradley, it's so good to see you on the CanTV airwaves on this happy Friday.
Yes, sir. Tell me your name, man. I feel the joy coming through the tube.
This is JB from the South Side.
Hey, Jay.
So, yeah, man, the thing to say about Chicago is, keep your head up or keep your chin up and your head down, right?
Right.
I think I think this consent decree is probably one of the best things that's going to happen to the police department. But what I wanted to ask you is, they're wearing body cameras now, right?
Right.
Can't we monitor for those gun pointings with that body camera? And is there any other technological way that we could make it so that they don't have to do the extra paperwork? Because, I'd rather have the cops out on the street than out in the back filling out paperwork. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up, and that's what I said earlier. That you said right there is something that need to be voiced to the individuals that's talking about putting that decree together. You know what I mean? Hey, I'm going to give you my number. You got a pen? Because I want you to call me tomorrow or call me Monday, and I'm going to get that phone number and everything to you, because with technology being what it is, I believe that's something that can happen. You know what I mean? If you raise that gun and something should go off like click, the camera comes on, and make sure the audio comes on at the same time. You know what I mean? Okay? I believe that can happen, and that should address the concern about those that's worried about paperwork. Caller, I see you. Could you please state your name and voice your opinion? Hello? Caller?
My name is Sam Rainey. Brother, I've been knowing you, man, since the early 60s, bro.
Hey, man, I told everybody I was 21, man.
I feel you, Brother Gator.
How you doing, man?
Man, what I see, brother, is the fact that a lot of young brothers out here, there are no more mentors out here like it was when we were coming up in the 60s, because remember back in the 60s, we did have still family that were in different factions of gang, but they were still family.
Right.
And they knew how to do together a peace treaty. And this is something, Brother Gator, we have not seen in years, because it's not about the policemen now.
Right.
It's not about the churches. It's about how we raising and how we're not raising our kids to be better citizens than what they are already. Because the problem that we have out here now, this starts at home. A child cannot learn if he's not taught at home, and that's where it starts at, Brother Gator.
Hey, man, you know what? I got to agree with you on that. Because with the help of my wife, who's the mother of my 3 sons, that's how we raised our children. And it was a thing called a blueprint that Larry Hoover and them had put out to stop individuals from going to a negative. Okay? Letting it be known that it's important that you go to school, get an education. You follow what I'm saying? Okay? So I became the role model to my children, inclusive of my daughter. You know what I mean? And it was, I don't want you to be like me. I got my GED in the penitentiary. So education is powerful and key. Okay, you heard about what I used to do, how I ended up in the penitentiary. I want you to see me. Hey, I see my son just came in there. Hey, send him in there. Hey, my youngest son, Leviticus Bradley. You know, my other son, Carl, is out there. Carl out there? Hey, come on in there right quick, man.
Are you, can I pull this
What's up? Yeah, pull up your seat, man. Put your neighbor right there.
All right, cool. Stop.
That's my son Leviticus. Come on over here, man.
Good job.
Yeah. Can you see?
Yeah, for sure.
That's perfect. That's my other son, Carl. Y'all know Carmiel. He's been on the show before. Hey, he may be sitting low, but he's this tall. Okay. You know, one of the things, we were just talking about the march over around Wrigley Field, and I gave him a hooray. And then I'm talking with, move in some kind, there you go. I'm talking with a gentleman about the raising of our children as being a part of the solution to senseless violence. And I agree with him. A lot of people didn't even know that I was a parent. They just knew me as just ex-criminal, former gang enforcer, troublemaker. And then when I told them that, hey, I'm an ex-felon, I got a pardon from the governor, I help elect individuals, and they say the solution is good parenting. And I look at them, and then I raise my hand, and they say, Gator, you a parent? I said, of course. Okay. These are the fruits of our labor. This Leviticus Bradley, that's Carmiel Bradley. He got his master's degree. He working on a degree to be a master. And I'm just a master of my fate because of the chairman of United Peace, and that's Terry Marsh. Hey, Terry, bring in here, come in for 1 minute so they can see, they think you don't exist. You know, they think you don't exist. Come on here right quick. This is what we're going to do before we close this out.
I'm gonna be here for just a second.
Just a sec. You stand behind your crew right there.
Yeah.
You in there?
As it swings in.
Hold
Yes. Hey, we're all here.
on. Hey, now everybody knows that she do exist. I wouldn't pull in your leg, you know. With that, I want to say,
You can go.
but what I say all the time, I love you. And hey, y'all can go, but don't go, because we're going to go together.
For sure, for
My
sure,
man,
for sure.
appreciate y'all.
Okay, we can say no first.
Did you want to say something, man?
You want to say something? No, man, I'm good. I'm blessed. I can't complain.
You blessed, my man.
Blessed and highly favored.
All right. Appreciate you, man.
You got it, no problem.
I want to say there's so much that we can do if we just make the decision to do. And those marches, people say those marches don't mean anything. Those marches is bringing attention to the problem that affects Chicago. North side, west side, east side, south side. We want Chicago. Okay? And when I see that the people that live up north around Wrigleyville, when the people came to march along Lakeshore Drive and go to Wrigley Field, the people in those communities, they weren't upset. They were saying that they was feeling the pain, and they knew that there was a difference. But I'm going to share with you what the real difference is up north and the difference between the south side and the west side. Those up north report the crime. They see an individual commit a shooting, they gonna show the video. If they have to come on their balcony, and they gonna stand there so you can see who they are. I believe if those on the west side and the south side report individuals that's involved in senseless shootings and killings of women and children and other innocent individuals, that'll make a difference. It'll be less pain within our community. It'll be enough time for us to think about building within our community. When we read the papers, 4 people get shot on the west side, 3 of them are children. That's a problem. When we can't have a prayer vigil without violence, that's a problem. When we can't have a funeral and a funeral procession on the way to the graveyard without violence and shooting, that's a problem. But it's a bigger problem when we know who the individuals are that's doing the shooting, and we don't do anything about it. That become our problem. With that, I want to say, to God be the glory. Don't choke, vote. And be at Bud Biliken Parade next Sunday. I just showed you that I was there last year. And now that Barack Obama then joined me in endorsing J.B. Pritzker, vote for J.B. Don't make a mistake. I got to wrap it up. To God be the glory. See you next Sunday at the Bud.